Okay. And I'll start this by saying, welcome everybody to the West Side Computer Club. I'm sorry I didn't start the video before we started this. Our conversation has been our first question of the evening was brought up by Wayne, where he wants to take an SSD and hook it up to his Nighthawk router and use that as a form of a network attached storage device, a NAS device, that data will be available to all the computers in his household or anything that's connected up to that router. And
probably just use a regular, just instead of a SSD, one of these portable USB hard drives.
Yeah, that will work very well too. Depending upon the unit, I don't know how much power is needed or is delivered through that USB port.
Yeah, that's the thing I was concerned about. And I noticed they have these things that call PoE, power over Ethernet.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So some of these hard drives actually will work off the Ethernet instead of having their own power supply.
Right.
But most of the drives that I have, USBs that I got, they work without any external power.
Right.
Well, again, it depends on how much storage you want and need. If you're going for a larger drive and it is a networked drive, usually you will have something that has its own power supply. Usually you will have something that provides redundancy and failover. I mean, you're talking about probably a NAS being about as economical as a large SSD in such a situation.
Yeah. Well, I actually have a NAS that I bought years ago, but I had so much trouble with it. It's got like 4 hard drives in it, but I had so much trouble trying to figure out how to set it up that I gave up.
Well, you do have to put in a little bit of upfront learning. There is a curve.
Yeah.
But once you've done that, you do have these advantages that you've got large capacity, you've got failover, you've got stability, you've got, if you do have to pull one drive, if you've set it up correctly,
right,
the data can reassemble.
Yeah.
And so you've got basically built-in backup. SSDs have a lot of disadvantages when you start using them as data drives or archive drives.
Okay.
Data on SSDs is not particularly stable compared with spinners, and they are subject to certain kinds of effects if they're in a constant use environment. And again, there is the question, can you perform what is known as trim or garbage collection? And that's something that's both the operating system and the enclosure's controller. If the enclosure's controller can't pass the command, it won't happen. If the operating system, and every router has an operating system, usually Linux, and Raspberry Pi, if you're using that, has Linux. And Linux does have an fstrim command, but it's not passed through most controllers. And Windows has a trim command, which is not passed through most USB controllers and most SATA controllers. So you have to have something called UASP support. And with a spinner, you don't worry about that because they can be defragged.
Okay, well that sort of helps me. I think I'm just going to stick with a platter instead of an SSD, which is a heck of a lot cheaper.
I think you'll get more bang for your buck. You'll get greater longevity, possibly greater reliability, and you can have a couple of them or several of them. They don't have to be in an official NAS or RAID configuration. They can be just set up so that one backs up the other.
Okay, I brought up a video on YouTube for using the ReadyShare. I think that is the app.
ReadyShare, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the app that Wayne is on your machine, on your Nighthawk?
No, I don't know.
Oh, now this is from 2014. So I put in Nighthawk, but I don't know why it came up with this.
I've got a Nighthawk CAX30 AX2700.
Let's see, USB. I put in Nighthawk. Nighthawk router. Wait, what version?
CAX30. That's the modem, and the AX2700 is the Wi-Fi. It's a Wi-Fi 6 cable modem.
Okay, let's see what that comes up with.
A router.
I still came up with that ReadyShare. They call it Ready, or is it Ready Cloud? What was the name that they called it?
It's called Netgear Nighthawk CAX30.
No. Wayne, I'm asking, what do they call? Do they have a term that they're calling for this USB storage?
I don't know. I that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay. All right. So this thing says, and I don't know the age of this article. Are you guys still seeing this where I'm
Yes.
a Netgear page?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. It says, how do I connect the USB drive to my Nighthawk router? And it does use ReadyShare is what this is saying. So
Okay.
ReadyShare is probably their built-in app that runs that. And it shows the USB port, USB 3.0 port. And it shows here you basically plug it in. If your USB drive has a power supply, you must use it when you connect to the USB router. It doesn't seem to tell you if there's any power over how much power the USB port is delivering.
Yeah.
When you connect the USB drive to the router, it might take up to 2 minutes before it's ready for sharing. And by default, it's ready. The USB drive is available to all computers on your LAN. That's pretty much what this says quickly.
Now, the ReadyShare, is that something you have to have on your computer?
No, that is what's it. That I think that is like the app that's built into the router that operates the USB drive.
Well, I have to find out if that's in the particular router that I have.
I think you shouldn't really, that will help you hone it down or narrow it down to answer your questions. But I don't think that's really a big concern what the app is that they use. Just get one, take a USB stick and plug it in. That's
Yeah.
what I would try that first. Get like a 512 gig and plug it in. See how that works.
Okay, requirements.
Yes. Thank you.
The drive must use less than 750 milliamps of power. So that's the limit of what it does. 750 milliamps. You may need to partition a larger drive into 2 terabyte partitions.
Okay, so it has a 2 terabyte max.
Yes, it does seem to. And it can take any kind of formatting, whether it's Linux, whether it's Mac, or whether it's Windows.
USB for Dummies. Here's a little article somebody wrote about it.
And you may have to enable USB detection in the router interface.
Yeah.
By the way, this router says that it also has a cable modem. Is that correct?
Yes. It's a combo.
Yeah.
It's a combo modem router. The modem is a CAX30 and the router is the AX2700.
So there's not a lot. This is just somebody, this is on Reddit, so I don't think that was a lot of help there.
You know what I might try to do is go back to my, it's called Qnap.
Uh-huh.
Got four drives in it. Maybe I might try to reactivate that.
Does that have its own power supply?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
Okay, so then all you need is you need the USB or a data cable to hook up to the router.
yeah.
Or it can go right onto his LAN if he's got an Ethernet.
I just hook it up to the LAN.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that
But
too.
hey, Wayne,
Yeah.
do you have a USB stick handy?
I don't have one that's empty right now.
Ah, well, okay, one that you don't mind. It didn't say whether it has to be empty or populated. If you got one you don't mind,
Yeah, I could stick it on there.
stick it on
course.
there and see what happens.
Yeah, but that's in the basement right now. So
Okay.
I'm
Well,
not close.
while
not
we're
close.
talking, run downstairs, go plug it in, and come on back, and you can tell us how this. But Bob is correct that you probably are going to have to IP address into the router
Right.
after you plug it in, and make sure you enable the USB storage portion.
Yeah, I've got to do that on the modem.
Yeah,
Yep.
that you may want to do prior to even installing it. You just enable it. It may automatically be enabled, and it's just waiting for you to plug something in. And then by next month, you can let us know how this worked.
Yeah, I have to try that.
And
But I'm glad I talked about it because I'm not going to waste my money on a SSD when it's probably not a good idea.
no, it's not that it's not a good idea. It's just more like you're spending a lot of money on something that's not going to need a lot of power behind it, a lot of speed. Speed of an SSD.
Right.
Granted, Bob did bring up a lot of some very good alarms or flags that you should be aware of. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't use it, and that you couldn't use it in that setting. He's just saying that you could run into problems down the line, and he's just giving you a red flag on it.
Okay.
But I think I would just go with a USB stick, like a 512 gig, plug it in, give it a try, see what you're going to be putting on there, give it a whirl. If it's not big enough, you can always buy a bigger one.
Yeah, I think I'll
512 gigs are not that expensive.
Because I got a 3 terabyte. I got 2 3 terabyte Western Digital drives in this Qnap. So,
okay.
I think maybe I'll try to reactivate that, get that working.
Yeah, and you may want to just so you got. Let's see, which Qnap do you have?
Yeah, I must have spent a couple $200, $300 at least on.
Well, do you know which model?
I don't know. I can't see on the outside.
TR004. Does that ring a bell?
No, I don't know. I can't see on the outside.
It might tell you on the bottom or the back.
Yeah, I've got stuff all over it.
Ah.
Yeah, let me get one.
Any NAS device does take a little work to get up and running. And they take any NAS device, they all take a little maintenance. You have to go and play with them pretty much often and be willing to do that. But the rewards are great. You're not relying on the cloud for storage. And definitely, I personally would not rely on the cloud for doing any type of backup service. Like backing up.
Here we go. Qnap TS451.
Tom Sam 451?
Yeah.
Okay. Tom Sam 451.
I printed out a whole manual here.
Key things on those is how much RAM that they have. And have you, there's B&H Photos sells them.
Yeah. Now, what this thing has is it has its own operating system.
Right. Oh yeah, it's got its whole got a whole operating system in it. I don't know. Maybe it's probably Linux, though, probably, isn't it?
It's a proprietary operating system called QTS.
Okay.
QTS is probably one of these Linuxes.
Oh, yeah. It says Qnap TS451 and QTS 4.2. So the QTS must be the operating system.
Could be.
Oh, it lets you run virtualization on it too. Run
Yeah,
multiple isolated Linux systems. Wow, this is a pretty strong machine.
Yeah, it can also be set up as a media server.
Yeah, it's got DLNA built into it, Chromecast, Bluetooth,
Plex.
Plex. Yeah, if you put Plex on there, you'll be able to use it as a media server. It's a 60. Here, let me share this screen. Share.
Now, this particular one says it can have a maximum of 12 hard drives. That can't be right. Your model can't be like that.
The one I have is 4.
Yeah.
It's designed with 4. It's got 4 bays.
Yeah. And I'll bet each one cannot go above, what, 2 terabytes, or would it be 4?
That's what I've got. I've got 2 of them that are 2 terabytes.
Mm-hmm.
I've got another, it's a 500 gigabyte. And another Seagate.
Yeah, the TS451 has 1 gigabyte of DDR3 RAM.
So I got 2 500 gigabyte drives and 2
So yeah, you could go a little higher on those.
3. I got 2 3 terabyte drives, Western Digital.
Yeah.
And then I've got 2 half a gigabyte drives.
Oh, all right. All right.
Put drives in.
High capacity hard drives are pretty cheap these days.
Yep. And I don't know how it works if if you have to do them in pairs or.
Do that. Yeah, it's set up so you can have all these different ways of what do they call it, where they interact with each other.
So how much RAM is in this one?
I don't know.
2 gig or 8 gig, it says in the.
Oh, you got the 8 gig?
I don't know.
I
bought this way back in 2015, so.
Okay.
Does they have a plus 2G in part of the order, part of the number?
The original had 1 gigabyte, and then there was one that had 4.
Yeah, I don't know what this has.
You know what? It really won't matter for what you're doing at the moment. If you're going to go and run and play and put all this other stuff on there, then you need more RAM. I think if you got a 2 gig, you could get away with running Plex on there, but you're going to start stretching it. But first, try the unit out. Hook it up.
Yeah.
Have it initialize the drives, reinitialize the drives so they're all fresh. Update the OS that's on there. It should have an auto update feature in there. You get the latest and update any firmwares that are required on it.
It's probably way behind.
Well, yeah, and expect that. Expect that it's going to be behind, and that you need to, Is that me? No. Darn telephones.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It happens. I just didn't know if it was me or somebody breaking into our meeting here tonight. It looks pretty good. There's a lot of good stuff you can do with this. So I think that is your best solution since you already own it. But your other one that you wanted to do, it doesn't hurt. You could do both. Put a USB stick on there in your router and see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to avoid buying any more hard drives. I'll try to utilize my Qnap here first. Yeah, because I pour a lot of money into that. You know,
You did.
but that was back in 2015. So things are pretty expensive back then too. Hard drives are not cheap like they are now. I remember my first hard drive was like a 25 megabyte. It was $500.
Okay. All right. Next question, new direction. Nobody.
I had a comment.
Go ahead, Bill.
I remember back when you scanned all your pictures.
Yes.
I forget the name of the device.
Oh, it was a Fujitsu scanner is the one I used. And I could probably go.
What was the name of that?
The brand is Fujitsu.
Well,
And,
that's not what it was called. It was Snap something. I've got one. I've got it in the back. Anyway, I just got done scanning all my pictures. I had 2 big boxes of snapshots that I got scanned.
right.
And I use that device. It worked pretty well.
Yeah, it works pretty well. Here, this may or may not be the exact model that I got.
Yeah, I don't need the exact model number.
Here's the screen. And this is, yeah, it's a scan.
Yeah, Scan Snap. That's it.
That's the name.
Yeah.
They have a few different models, but this worked very well for my needs, and I guess it worked for yours.
Yep, it did.
The nice thing is now, I don't know, did you go in and modify the settings to get the highest quality?
I don't think I did that.
Okay.
I'm not a quality freak, and I don't normally go in and modify pictures to make them the best that they can be.
Okay.
My opinion is the image itself brings back the memory.
Did you save them as PDFs or JPEGs?
JPEGs.
Okay. All right. So you must have made a change in the file settings somewhere in there. Yeah, I went into, there's some settings you could do in the application that they give you, and you could change the quality settings. It slows it down, but it wasn't that big of a deal for me. And of course, I had it save as JPEGs. And you can do duplex or double-sided scanning.
Right.
You know, if you have stuff that's written on the back of them. Of course, it doesn't add that as the photo. It makes it as a second photo. So
right.
you can't have a two-sided photo. So it's
right.
So you have 2 documents that are going to be one number away from each other. That was probably the only idiosyncrasy. Oh, the other thing is, and you may or may not have noticed it, is you do have to watch where the scanning bar is.
Yeah.
You know, they don't show you the inside here, but the scanning bar has like a sheet of plexiglass over the LEDs where the imagers are, and that can get scratched, or some debris can get on there, and you'll see lines that go straight up through the photo.
I had that happen, and I had given up on it because I bought it back when you did yours.
Okay.
And I tried doing it, and I gave up on it. I even tried cleaning it, but I couldn't seem to get the lines off. And then I left it alone, and I said, well, I'm going to try it again. And for some reason, I think this time it worked.
That's good that it worked. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll flip the photo over, and instead of scanning with the face down, I'll flip it so I get the sensor that's on the top instead. That's like a work.
I had some real thick photos, and I think those are what probably screwed it up.
Right.
I didn't scan those this time.
Polaroids give it a hard time too.
Yeah, right.
And anything thicker than a Polaroid, I will put in a flatbed scanner just because it really hurts the machine. It hurts the rollers that are feeding it and stuff. But you got the project done. How many photos did you scan?
Oh boy, I don't know. There were 2 big boxes like that of pictures. So 500 a box.
Ah, man after my heart.
Yeah. Well, I just sat down for a couple of days and watched TV down here and set up another table and the scanner and the other computer and did it.
So let's see. On mine, I scanned 11,505 photos.
Yeah, I don't have that many.
Well, but it's a culmination of my wife's photos that her dad took a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
And then my dad took a lot of pictures. And then of course we took a lot of pictures, me and my wife did. So that's what's incorporated in there. And in that file is also quite a few slides that I've scanned through a slide scanner. That's just the folder that I have them all residing in, because I'm not sure how to commingle those photos with my other photos that are digitally taken. I haven't worked that out, because when I started doing that, I got a little flack from the home executive about not wanting those commingled. She wanted them kept separately. So now they're separately. But there's I scanned, as you could tell, 11,500. And I'm not kidding you, that was a lot of work to do that, but it was enjoyable. I still have a good portion of it. I would say probably 50% that I still have to edit, but I gotten a lot done just in my free time, where I'll edit the photos in Photoshop, and boy, when you Photoshop them, it's amazing. On some of the photos, what you can do with them, just clearing up like backgrounds and the haze that comes over some of the pictures, and sharpening up the details that you didn't even know were there in the photos. So that's just,
I haven't been doing that.
right. But that's just me, because I want the detail to be there. So I'm willing to go through the effort. I still haven't published, if you will, on my network, and my slideshow screensaver that accesses all the pictures on my server displays all those throughout the day. So they're all viewable. They're not just hidden.
Mm-hmm. That's in my future life, I think.
So now that you have them all scanned, what are you going to do with them?
You mean the originals or the scans?
Well, the originals, that's a personal thing, whether you throw them in a box or put them back in the folders or whatever you're going to do with that. It's the scanned ones. How are you going to display them so everybody can see them?
Well, I haven't worked on that yet. I got them on right now, because I scanned them on my other computer. I put them on a jump drive to move them to my main computer.
Okay.
So I have it all on a jump drive. They're by year and then by event. So I could plug that in and use PowerPoint, I suppose, to display them in a slideshow.
Okay.
And so that's what I've thought about doing, but I don't have a network system. I just have 2 separate independent computers. I'm not sure if I can plug the USB into my smart TV or not.
Hi, Terry. Hi, Terry. Yes.
I could put them into my iPad, and I know I can scan. I can broadcast. I forget the term you use. Broadcast the iPad pictures to the TV. I know I can do that.
Right. You can do it. What does they call that? Is it airdrop?
AirDrop, yeah.
You could airdrop it. So you'd be able to send it right to the TV and have that running all day long if you wanted.
Right.
Some TVs have a USB port. You can put all those pictures in there and it may show those for you.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
an option.
I haven't looked at that and so far. That's a winter project, maybe.
Yeah. So that's you know, but you don't have anything hooked up to your NAS. I mean, you don't have a NAS, so
I do not. I just have two separate computers.
okay. Gotcha. I'm walking around my house, so bear with me as I'm trying to get access to my PC that I have running this software, so I can give you guys the name of the software I run. And it takes a moment because the PC that's running this is very, very slow. It's a PC stick. It's a stick computer, and this is all it does. It just runs a screensaver all day long, and it runs on a monitor, if you will, the one that I picked up. You could pick it up. I picked up like a Goodwill or something or a garage sale.
Yeah,
So,
I've done that a lot.
so it's random photo screensaver. The name of it.
Is that software? Is that software?
Yeah, it's free. It's a free software. And I have that just running on a computer, and all it does is you set up the slideshow that you want to do. Could be a random format, whether it's going to be a curtain or a fade in or zoom or whatever. It will, and how long you want to display, and that's it. It just runs. The nice thing I like about that one is it also plays videos. So if you have any MP4, MP4s, no, MPEGs, MP4s, if you have any of those on there, it will intermix those in. So you could be showing pictures and then all of a sudden it'll play a video, whether it's a short portion of it or whatever. So you got some little family clips of family home movies, it'll intermix those in. And it just works. It works for me. And I've been using it for probably 5 years now. And that would be an application like Wayne's gonna go and put that USB stick on his router. Well, just go and put all those photos on that USB stick. Tell that program to go to that USB stick and it will display it wherever you have the computer running. So that could be running, if your computer's up and running, it would be going all the time. This way, the thing is when you scan this stuff, now it's hidden. It's, versus when you had the photos, they're in a book.
Right.
If you open the book, you can look at them. When you close the book, you can't see them. If they're on a computer, you now have the freedom to display them at any point in time. And you should. Now that you got it, you should. You went through the effort, display them.
Well, the other thing is I can just share them too. I can give them to the kids.
Yep.
On a DVD. Because when we kick the bucket, I don't know if my kids are going to want all those pictures. They're minimal people. They want everything minimized and digitized and all of that. So that's really why I did it. So if they wanted to throw the pictures away, they could.
Okay. I'm trying to see if. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. My kids are minimalized too, which is also why I went ahead and scanned all mine, because I knew that they're not going to want the physical pieces. They don't want the clutter of all the photos,
right?
But they'll be happy to get some digital files. At least I think they would.
Yep, I agree.
My nephew and his fiance are the same way. It's that whole generation, I think. They like everything to be either on the phone or in the cloud.
Right. Everything. And that's perfect for them. So here's this software that I use. Again, it's free. It's open source. It really has not been updated in years.
Yeah, for a new version.
Yeah, it says a new version. And when I ran that new version, I had problems with it. I'd have to go back and look and see which version I'm running to tell you which one worked for me. But I think I could tell you later on which one it is, but not right now.
Okay.
But this is what I use, and it works great.
I'll look at that.
And it's a solution because like I'm rehashing the same thing. You went through the efforts, now display them so you can see them.
Well, my thought has been when we have the family over for dinner or whatever, that I would just run it in the background somewhere and they could look at it glance at it as they were going by.
Right. Yeah, mine is running on a monitor pretty much from the, I turn on the monitor in the morning and I shut it off at night, but the computer that runs it is running 24/7 all the time because it's easier that way.
Yeah.
And this way, whenever it's in our living room or family room, we're sitting around at the couch and we're talking, we could turn our head and look at the pictures as they come up and we'll have a memory. Suddenly a memory will pop up. It could be a dog or a person or the little kids when they were babies and things like that. It brings back those memories. And that's the point, is you went through the effort, you want those memories to be fresh.
Yep, you got it.
And relive them. If not for them, for yourself.
Yep.
And I think, Wayne, that's a perfect application for that USB stick. You could use that. You could use your Qnap, but I think the USB stick would be up and running in no time.
Yeah.
And you could go take a bunch of photos, put them on there, point a computer to it, and have it run as a screensaver. Windows has a built-in screensaver, and they'll do a similar thing, but not as good as this little app, this little program. Yes, Bert.
I don't know if other people are getting this or not, but I get almost every day something comes up, I guess, from OneDrive and the photos that I have, where it shows me, here's the pictures I've taken in this day of the year across all the years. And so it's kind of a reminder, because some of those were from early 2000s and or even before, whatever you have on the computer. And it just every day it says it was taken on, June 1st of any year, and pops those particular pictures up. So I don't know if others are doing that or not.
Right.
Google Photos does that on my Android phone. It'll pop stuff up. Sometimes it's 1 year, sometimes it's 3 years, sometimes it's 5 years. It comes up with pictures from that to remind you where you were, what you were doing.
So Harry, you have your photos backed up to the cloud.
No, this is just the stuff that's on my phone. It's accumulated over the time that I've had the phone. Nothing ever gets taken off of that thing as long as there's room in the memory for it.
Okay.
Like my computer, there's tons and tons of stuff on there that ought to be trashed, but who's got time to go through and sort it all out?
Very true. Thus the reason my server is at 28 terabytes now.
You got it. With how many duplicates and everything that's there.
Well, right? everything's duplicated, so it's actually, what is that? 28 divided by 2 is 14. So it's 14 terabytes of storage duplicated. So it's backed up twice on there. And then yes, duplicate. There's always lots of duplicates. I was sifting through a bunch of my videos last night and realized I've got multiple copies of same movies, and the same movie, just 3 different versions of it. Well, right. Pick out which one's the best quality and trash them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Aura is selling those frames to people, and there's been 2 or 3 other outfits doing the same thing that have the frames that you can put pictures on.
Right.
And they can be accessed. My kids went together and bought us one, and then all 3 of them are on the line so that they can add pictures whenever they want to of things, or we can add things in, or we can edit them and throw them off too. So,
my kids are all on the Apple line, and I probably could set up somehow. They share their photo albums with me, so I could probably put iTunes somewhere and have my screensaver, go to that iTunes folder and pull in that.
Sure.
I haven't worked that part out. It's something I really should do.
You'd have
Anyone have any-
randomized all the stuff all through it. You never know what you might see next.
Right. Well, they only give me the stuff that they want to share with me. They're not giving me their other personal ones. Has anyone done that with iTunes?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, well, I've got a similar thing on the iPad because it uses the pictures that are stored on the iPad. It will, you can set up a randomized show on that from the iTunes pictures too.
Okay.
Because those end up being saved in the cloud as a backup too most of the time.
Right. And that's the thing is I haven't done that. I really should figure out how to do this.
You got an old iPad you're not using? Well, you can use it for that.
Well, no, I want them to show up on this other computer. I have iTunes running on my server now. So all I would need to do is somehow tie that into the stuff that's in the cloud,
right,
and have it pull it in, which I haven't done. I haven't configured iTunes to do that, which is what I'm working through right now as I'm talking. I haven't figured that part out. Is
all right.
How do I make iTunes pull in the photos from the cloud and then have it local that they could be pulled up in another program and seen it?
There's a possible program for you in a couple of months or so.
If I ever could figure that part out, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay, so
all my pictures on my phone and my iPad are all up in the iCloud. And if I take a picture on my iPhone, it automatically shows up on my iPad.
Right.
Or if I take a picture on the iPad, it ends up on my phone as well. So
yeah, it syncs them in there usually.
It's synced, yeah.
All right, next question, new direction. Bill, that was a great topic.
Yeah.
Well, something along the same lines.
Yes.
Years ago, before video cameras and everything else, as my family grew up, my wife taped a bunch of audio on cassettes. And so I just bought a cassette player that you can plug a USB stick into, and it converts the cassette into an MP3. Now, I just got it today, so I don't know how it works yet, but it looks pretty simple. I have played a tape in here that I can hear with earplugs. This is the second one I bought. The first one I bought, you had to use Audacity, and then it had some other conversion software to convert it to an MP3. And I couldn't get that one to work, so I sent that one back. And that's when this one came. I noticed this one had a USB port that converts them directly, supposedly, into MP3s. So when I figure this out, maybe by next month, I can give you a 5 or 10 minute talk on it.
Okay.
It's small. It's the size of a cassette.
There you go.
Yeah.
And like I say, it's got a USB port and a earphone jack and a power plug, and it's also got battery operated, and then the typical play, forward, reverse, and reverse the side of the tape without turning it over.
Oh, sweet.
So
you can use it as a player or a device to transfer with.
Yeah, the player, of course, is through earphones.
Okay.
I don't think it has any speakers.
You can always you can plug in speakers through like an aux jack too.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, and power some type of self-powered speakers.
Yeah.
With, computer speakers.
I don't know if I used to have a set. I think I gave all that stuff away.
I know what you mean. Bill, you have to let us know how that really works. It sounds great.
I'll let you know next month probably.
And how many batteries does it use?
2 AA's.
2 AA's. Okay. I've pretty much gotten rid of 95% of my audio tapes, but I have a few left. Someday I may want to borrow that thing to.
I think it was $30.
Okay. Well, I like
It's
although it cost me $30 in gas to drive down to you.
yeah, easy. Yeah, you got it. EZCAP is the name of the product. I don't believe I got it through Amazon. I think I got it through eBay, but I don't remember now because it took too long to get here. It wasn't Amazon.
So that's cassette?
Yeah, cassette to MP3 converter. EZCAP.
EASY. Easy what? CAP?
CAP.
2 words? Or
One
one?
word. One word.
Easy. Got it. All right. I like this thing.
Yeah, I'll let you know how it works. I have played through it, listened, and it does play the tapes.
Yep.
I don't know how well they're going to turn out, but
right. The caveat with any older audio or videotapes is they start deteriorating over time. They lose their
sure.
data.
Yep.
Because the tape is next, the magnetic tape is next to another layer, and they crosstalk and they start losing their data between the two.
Yep.
So you'll have dropouts and you'll have muffledness,
sure.
and things like
Yeah.
that.
I'm not sure how good they'll be, but I got 2 boxes about 12 inches long full of tapes.
Right.
I didn't know she had them. We don't have a tape player anymore. So.
And of course, you got to do this in real time.
Yes, you do.
So if the tape is 45 minutes, it's 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
The thing I'm want to try to figure out, although I did a little reading, is as I'm putting this on my USB stick, how do I categorize all of the stuff that's there? So if I'm intermixing years or intermixing events within a year that I have on a cassette that are labeled that way, how do I label each one? And I did read enough that there's a manual mode and an auto mode. And the manual mode, of course, you stop and you can label it that way. And I think the auto mode automatically stops at different spots when there's a blank.
When there's a blank, and then it saves the file and gives it a file name, and then the next.
So, but I haven't read enough to really know how it works.
Well, I think it's going to be trial and error.
Oh yeah.
You're going to listen to a tape, let it do its thing, and if it's a natural pause and it makes it into a file, maybe that doesn't work. Versus, and you really want one continuous file because it's 45 minutes of somebody playing music, so to speak.
Right.
You know, but there's a little pause while they say what the song name is or something like that.
Right.
I'm just giving you a working example. Do you want that to be as one big concert on the tape, or do you want it to be
most likely I'm going to have to do it in the manual mode,
right,
where it just plays continually, even through.
Well, it means you're going to have it hooked up to headphones or a speaker at some point to be able to hear what's going on.
Nah. I'm just going to do cassette after cassette. We'll see. I'll let you know next month.
Okay. All right. That's EASYCAP. And that's they make several devices here. They make a video capture device, and I probably have used something like this too.
Why don't you pull it up on the screen for the other
I'm doing that right now.
But mine is EZ, not easy.
Oh, EV. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that works too, but mine is just EZ.
EZCAP. Got it.
Edward Zorro.
Edward Zorro.
Yeah.
Got it. See, I was looking at something different. So, there's all kinds of capture boxes that they make. Innovative technology. Innovator of video technology. So they've got This must be for gaming and audio. Oh, look, they got.
They have a game dock, and they have a PVR.
Okay. Wow. They got one with built-in AM/FM radio in it.
Cassette converter.
And a Bluetooth cassette player, so you can use Bluetooth with it.
And VHS digitizer.
Oh, this is the one you got right here.
Game Link Raw. Or
Yeah,
Game Dock Ultra.
That's it.
That's it right there. Cassette to MP3 converter. So that's
That's what I like. No PC required.
They have a full HD recorder, and they have a cam link.
Yeah, this sounds pretty good. To 231 cassette converter USB, no PC required, and you can use it as a personal cassette player.
They've got a turntable.
Really,
Otherwise known as a Walkman.
Yeah. They've got a turntable converter too.
Oh, do they? Yeah, we got rid of all our records.
Well, they have one. Bluetooth cassette player.
Okay, so it's a maximum of 32 gigabyte is the USB drive max, which is plenty. Audio does not take up a lot of room. 128 kps. That's pretty good. They'll do for most purposes. 2 AA's, or you can use a 5-volt. The 2
Well,
AA's.
I can stick a larger flash drive than that in there, can't I?
Max is 32 is what it says, 32 gig. But honestly, don't worry about it. You know, unless you're just keep punching and punching and punching them through. MP3s don't take up a lot of room.
Right.
They're, what are they, 5 kilobytes per file or something like that?
Most of my, I think I might still have some 32 gigs. Most of
them they're still using the USB 2s too, so you can use older ones that you've been have laying around.
Right, USB 2. So you can use a 3 in there, but you don't need anything faster than that.
Right.
Yeah, that will work really well.
Okay.
Oh, it's got a record function too.
Really?
But you know, it's interesting here in the picture. If you look at this picture, they're showing I'm sorry, they're showing like an SD card.
My model does not have that.
No, it doesn't say it has that, but I'm just saying they're.
It's a different model, but it
I see.
It has that capability.
Okay, all right. SD card, yeah, into a micro SD. That's kind of nice too, is that you could just throw it in like
maybe that one just has the SD card and not the USB port.
Oh, you're right. It doesn't show.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah, it's one or the other.
Well, you're gonna have to let us know how this works.
Okay, I will.
But they do have audio capture that's just part of a cable. There's a connecting cable that has RCA plugs on one end, and then on the other end it's USB, and it's got a processor in between.
Really?
Yep.
That would have been interesting too.
And this one has RCA. It also has it has an 1/8" headphone jack.
Yeah, there's a headphone jack.
And it says that if you're playing a cassette source or a turntable source, as long as you're hooked up to it, you can bring it right into the computer.
Yeah, I think you can.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I've used the USB to the audio converters where it's just a little device with RCA jacks on there, or what is those DINs? The ones, the DINs are the microphone jacks. I've used that before when I had to do a lot of conversions. That was one of my earlier projects that I had to do. We all have those projects, right?
Yep.
One thing I have for my Chromebook is a digital audio, a digital analog converter inline, because it comes out as digital sound and it has to be analog for headphones.
Okay.
And that DA converter gets much better sound than I can get out of the internal speakers for sure.
Great
And there are
subject, Bill.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot you can do with these things.
Anyone else want to comment on this subject? Okay, let's move on to the next one. Who else has got a new question or a new direction that we want to head? Wayne is figuring out his Qnap.
Yeah.
Or his router. He's trying to figure out which USB stick he's going to stick on there. Nobody else? Anyone buy anything new?
Just said.
Just that. Well, Bill, you topped us all with that.
I'm going to need to buy some new backup drives because I don't know whether it's really that I can't rely on my old drives, but I've got some older drives, one group of which did get damaged, I believe. The other doesn't seem to be holding partition formatting correctly. And the ones that aren't holding the partition formatting are Seagate. And Seagate external drives are pretty notorious for having issues that happen over time.
Okay.
So I'm going to get another set of Western Digital 4 terabyte USB 3.
Okay.
Are you using the 3.5 or 5-inch spinners, or are you using the laptop size?
It's the external drives in the enclosures, and they are essentially laptop drives in enclosures.
Yeah.
The Seagate ones are not very reliable, but the Western Digital ones are very reliable in my experience.
I've got a couple older ones that both have Hitachi drives in them, and those things don't seem to have any problem. They just work when I use them. They lay around for a while, and then I go happen to get one and start looking through stuff on it that seems to fire up and works fine. Both of the small enclosures I had for them came with a dual port power cable, USB type. You have two ends to plug in so that you make sure you get enough power to run it.
Yep. Well, these days they just come with one USB 3 connector, and I plug them into a hub because there's 3 of them, and the hub is powered.
Yeah.
So and that way I don't run into the problem I ran into with these older drives, these other drives, where I attached them to a hub and it didn't have power, and I think that's what caused the problem.
Yep. That because it's struggling to get it through and give enough power, and they could be cycling up and down ever so little that it's affecting the drives.
Yep.
Yep. The power is always the key here. So you get yourself a power, adapter, if you will, to run that much better. It'll work much better.
But the failure that I ran into with the Seagate drives, these were not attached in that way. They've always been attached to a powered hub. But I think what happened was I did some cloning on them. I cloned some partitions. And depending on the software you use for NTFS cloning, you can get into some problems.
I see. So it was user-induced issues.
I would think so. What I want to do is just reformat them and use them normally without using them as cloned partitions and see if they're okay. But I don't want to take that chance with my new data. So why not just get some more of the working drives, some more of the WD passport type, or these are going to be Element.
When you're
those are both
formatting
very
those,
reliable. What?
When you're formatting those, are you doing a full format or are you doing a quick format?
I use Gparted, and it can do either. What I try to do is I try to full format because quick format, especially if you're going to turn part of it into Linux or you're going to make different partitions, quick formatting just won't do that job.
Yeah, it gets a little sloppy sometimes when on the quick formats.
But boy, doing a full format on an 8 terabyte drive, you might as well go on vacation.
Oh, I don't mean low level. I don't mean low level format.
Not a true low level, just
no, just not what they now call quick formatting that takes a few seconds. Instead, it's the one that takes a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're going to transfer data, and this is what I ran into with cloning, that will take a few hours.
Yeah.
That's an overnight.
So, you brought up an interesting subject here, Bob, about quick formatting versus full formatting.
Mm-hmm.
Would anyone in the group like to discuss this so we all understand what is the difference between a quick and a full format? So
Sure.
you partition your drive and you made it X big, and Windows will give you the option. You want to do a quick format or you want to do a full format? Does anyone know?
I've just always used quick and I don't know the difference.
Well, that's not the answer.
That's the question.
I generally use the quick format unless I believe there's an issue with the drive, or I want to make sure I'm wiping data. Then I might do a full format. Sometimes when I decide that I'm going to wipe a drive and I want to transfer it from one ownership to another for another purpose, whatever. I might be giving it away or something. And what I'll do is I will actually restructure from the default format of whatever Windows says is the default sector size. I'll change it to something smaller, and then I'll do a full format on the drive. And then I'll switch it back to another format. Now, I kind of play that game. This way it makes it harder if someone was trying to recover the data because they won't know where the sectors are that I was originally using. But that's for that purpose. It's not necessarily the answer to the question. I believe like a full format will actually go through and it writes each one of the sectors down on the disk, including beginning and end points. A quick format, this is the one I don't necessarily understand. I'm asking Dennis, Bob's probably looking this up to explain this for us, but anyone know?
Well, what a quick format does is it just simply X's over all the file names, puts an X in front of them, and it doesn't even change the partition information. All it does is just restore the file system and X out any of the data that's there. So your data are actually still there.
Okay.
From previously, and they could easily be recovered. But if you have an X in front of a file name or a directory in Windows, it is not read by the operating system. And that's how it just makes a distinction. It just puts all these X's in. And it's really, it is really quick, but it's not secure. And if the file system has any corruption in it, you're going to need to do something else like a disk repair.
So it's basically wiping out the FAT table, the file allocation table, or whatever NTFS is going to call it, but it's still a FAT table. It's wiping that out, but the pointers where the data is still the same location on the drive. That is, I don't know what you say. Where the sector is the pointer in the file allocation table says go to this sector. That sector still exists, the beginning and end point of the sector. That stays the same. The data that was in there is still there. It's unchanged, but it's ready to be overwritten.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Whatever.
the GPT and the FAT partition tables will be overwritten.
Right.
But everything else is pretty much in place except for those little X's.
I'm not sure what happens when you have one that's formatted as NTFS and then you format it as FAT, or when you go the other way, does that clean it better?
Well,
you get to choose which.
Well, is it a different file system at that point? If it's a different file system,
Robert says hello.
Right.
I just say hello. Hey, Robert says hello. Okay.
Yeah.
File system, I would think it more or less be gone.
Well, if you do something like go over to a Linux file system, that will completely rearrange the data structure. And that way, it's not going to be readable. But if you go from GPT to FAT or the other way, one direction you can convert in Windows. The other direction you can't go back. I think you can't go back to FAT once you've been into the GPT or NTFS. Those introduce additional complications.
Is there any possibility that when you, let's say you change the format structure, that is, you decide I'm going to go to EFAT, and it was originally NTFS, and I just pulled this out of the air. Let's say we go from NTFS to EFAT. Is there a possibility, and then you choose quick format, is there a possibility that what it does is it wipes out the file allocation table or whatever they want to call it, and then in the background, when the system is idle, it continues to do a formatting of that drive? Is that a possibility what's going on, or am I just making that up?
Linux will continue to index.
Okay.
And Windows will continue to index. But the formatting itself is something that happens up front if you're making that kind of a drastic change.
Okay.
And like I say, I don't think Windows can go from NTFS backward. I think it can only go in the forward direction.
Okay.
And it cannot go from GPT to MBR. It can only go the other direction.
Oh man, all these file formats just drive me nuts. When do I want to choose one over the other? Bert's got his fingers up. Either it's the Boy Scout salute.
No, that's
Oh, that's the thing.
I had a question because I had a thumb drive and I was backing stuff up to it, and I started to get 495,000 files. And when I tried to add to it, it wouldn't add them. It looked like it was adding them, and then it didn't. They weren't there afterward. The first 495,000 were, but then when I added another 100,000, it disappeared, even though it looked like it was adding it.
On a USB stick?
Yep.
Wow, you had a lot of files that you wrote to that.
That's true.
And I thought I had a lot of photos, but boy, you got that many files?
Yeah.
Usually,
so
you didn't run into a wall.
There was a limit on how many files you could have, and because the drive still was supposed to have a terabyte of space, but it didn't get that far.
How was it formatted? I mean,
it may have been EFAT.
EFAT. Okay. See, I know FAT had a limitation on how many records it could store. EFAT, I'm assuming, has some kind of limitation. NTFS, I believe, I think each one of them have their limitations. We could look it up. Let's see. What is this? EFAT.
You're not going to hit the limit on NTFS. It's huge. But on FAT, it's going to be a limited number of files.
Okay, FAT32 has a 4 gigabyte max. This does not tell me how much EFAT does.
Well, it was just a surprise that I didn't expect, but can't win them all.
Yeah, but it doesn't tell you how many maximum number of files. Oh, theoretically, maximum on EFAT, I think, is like something like 2,796,000. So how you, I don't know. I don't know the answer to your question because, oh, here's another one that says limitation on, what was that? Let's see. I'm sorry. Let me share my screen here.
There's a file size limit.
Okay, NTFS versus VAT versus EFAT, ExFat. Operating system clusters is 2 to the 32nd power. And does it tell you here?
The other thing I'm wondering is, did that flash drive really have that capacity?
Okay, FAT32 has a limit of 4,194,000, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I don't think you did that. ExFat is nearly unlimited. NTFS is what, 4 billion? 294 million, so you didn't beat that one out.
I am wondering whether that particular flash drive did not really have that capacity.
Right.
There are ones that don't.
FAT16 has a limitation of 65,000. I've never used FAT12. That's according to this article.
Any limit on the number of file names you can store on a flash drive?
That would be file set,
okay.
Number of files.
And the answer to that, now this is something that was asked at Best Buy. Let's see if I can do any limit to the number of file names. If it's formatted to ExFat, no. But there are caps and there are size limits on FAT. 32 and probably, if you're talking about EFAT, probably that has a limit too.
I thought that I remember there was a limit on how many files you could put in root.
Quite probably.
And that could be what Bert was running up against. If they're all in root, that could be an issue versus if you put them into a subfolder, you may not run into an issue. I don't know. It's just a guess. What a good question, Bert.
What about?
Well, nothing's easy in technology, right?
No.
What about Bobo Fat?
What? That is a Disney thing. So you have to go to the Disney and find out what their criteria is.
Okay, here it is. One fellow says FAT32 has a maximum of just over 65,000 per directory.
Okay.
And that's substantially reduced if you use long file names. And you either use more directories or you reformat to NTFS because ExFat can also run into similar issues. So Apple format does not run into the issue. Linux format does not run into the issue. NTFS does not run into the issue. But FAT and possibly ExFat will run into these issues.
Right.
And it's the number of file names per directory. And that basically means you've overrun the partition table or the file allocation table. You've overrun your allocation table.
Right.
And long file names will overrun it faster.
Terry, were you getting surgery performed on your hand right then and there? Yeah, there you go. He's got I can't hear you, Terry. You're muted. Still can't hear you. There you go.
Roma's into alternative medicine, so because I have a couple of gout nodules, lumps, so she's got special
herbs
she puts on, and then the overnight to try and attack the gout nodules.
I think what it is, it's just a technique so you can keep your hands to yourself. You keep those hands to yourself. Anyways.
Hey, San Bernardino, German are fun to play with. Come on.
I know.
Not much else, but at least play with them, right?
All right. I think we covered this one pretty good, Bert. And any more questions? A new direction?
Go ahead.
Wait, go ahead, Wayne.
I had an issue with my Tesla. It's I've got security. I can use a USB on it, and it had to have FAT32 formatting, but you couldn't go beyond. I can't remember what it was, like a 32 gigabyte thumb drive. Any bigger than that, you couldn't do it. So I was able to find on the internet, there was a special program that would actually format FAT32 on like a 64 gigabyte flash drive.
Okay, what did it do? Break it into two partitions, or it just wasted space?
No, I don't know what it did, but it made the whole thing, converted the whole thing into FAT32.
Wow, and it worked on your Tesla?
Yeah. Okay,
so this is so that your car is recording, right, as it's driving? Yes. This is your a dash cam?
Security. This is on the security. Well, yeah, it either that. Well, actually, what happens, it keeps 10 minutes of stuff that's going when you're driving. It's always recording 10 minutes of stuff. And then if you want to, you can either honk the horn or push the right button and it'll save it. But the stuff that's going on continuously is not saved unless you have an accident or you purposely do it. But when I leave the car, it automatically goes into security mode, and it records if somebody's starting to walk around.
Okay.
And those are saved. But I wanted a bigger hard drive, or bigger drive, so I was able to format the thing into FAT32 that was greater than what you can normally do with Windows.
Right. Well, since you brought up your Tesla, I will bring up my son bought the Ford Mach-E, the Mustang Mach-E, and this is what the inside looks like. And when I was out in Boston a few weeks back, I got the glory of test driving this thing, or taking it out for a spin. And my God, does this car move? It's got a lot of performance behind it. It's beautiful on the inside, quiet cab. Of course, it's got all the bells and whistles, including self-driving capabilities on interstates.
Right.
And I was just amazed at how well it worked on the highway. He tells me that when he drives or commutes for work, and he's driving on the interstates, it'll handle stop and go traffic without any hitch whatsoever. Someone pulls in front of him, it takes care of it. It does really good. It's got cameras 360 degrees all the way around. Great security. It's a nice car. I really liked it.
What's the rated mileage that you get out of it?
Well, it says here 260. But that's this model that's shown. Honestly, I thought it was around 314. 314. That's on the rear wheel drive. Now he's got the dual motor, so I'm sure it's a little less. What is it?
He must have 4-wheel drive then.
Yes, he's got dual motor, so he's got four-wheel drive.
Yeah.
0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. And I tell you,
Oh yeah.
it's like that. It's unbelievably like that.
But you're gonna wear the tires out.
Well,
quickly.
That's him. That's
Yep.
not me.
He'll be lucky to get 10, 15,000 miles out of it.
Yeah, well, he'll have to figure that part out. In the beginning, I'm sure, because when we were in the car, occasionally he would really push it, and boy, that was just unbelievable how fast that car moved. Like you're up to 70 miles an hour in like nothing. What, 3-4 seconds, and you're there.
Yep.
I think the traction control on that, as far as wheel spin, keeps it to a minimum.
The wheels, the cars are so darn heavy that the wheels don't spin. They just tear the tires up.
Yeah, I know that's true. I know that's a problem with Tesla. I don't know whether Ford's got the same weight ratio or not.
Right.
I think they've got a lighter battery pack.
Maybe they don't have as wide of tires either, because my car's got pretty wide tires. Plus, it's run at 45.
Right. I don't think these are as wide of tires on this one. But I just briefly wanted to say he's very happy with his car. I got to drive it. I was very happy with it. The self-driving capabilities, I was just amazed at how well it worked. Of course, when you walk up to it, it opens the doors.
Yeah.
It locks the doors when you leave it. But you can leave it in cool mode. It'll cool down the car and get it ready for you. It'll heat up the car if you needed to, meaning the cabin. Where he works, he happens to work for a utility, so he gets free charging when he goes to work. That's a bonus.
Yeah.
In Massachusetts, specifically in the city that he lives in, Wakefield, the city provided him, I think they provided him the charger to install in his garage, with the understanding that they could throttle it. That means that, he can't charge during the day. He can only do off-peak hours charging, but that's the condition he got. So he got a free charger at home. The luxury, there's a lot of people are worried about charging, but he says, basically, think of this as every day you get in your car's got a full tank of gas. Every day. If you got a charger at home, it's got a full tank of gas, and you're ready to go. And that, I think, was really good. As a side subject, when we were driving away from there, we were driving to Delaware, I ran across a guy driving the Harley Davidson electric Lightning motorcycle. Oh, that was a beauty. And that was the first time I've seen anyone pull up to one of these charge point stations and plug a motorcycle in. And I had a brief conversation with him. I think he said this is the third electric motorcycle he's owned. He's been into it for over 10 years. And he really likes the Harley, just really has nothing but positive things to say about it. And it looked really nice, very sleek. It doesn't sound like a Harley.
I have a recording machine that'll do that for you.
Oh, there probably would be. I didn't talk to him much about that. But he was another one that said he's got a charger at home, and he pushed the thing is the fact that every day he gets in his car or onto his bike and it's ready to go. He can drive his distance, whatever he needs, because he's got a full tank of gas whenever he leaves the house. So it's, if you don't do a lot of cross-country driving, if you do mainly, I'll say locals or bigger than local, like in our case would be Chicago metro area, you got no problem. If you're a commuter, these electric cars really fit the bill because you could drive all day on it. We went out for just a joyride as a family, and nobody even had to worry about gas. No one had to worry about how much am I using? Am I going to run out? Because we drove for hours and hours, and I think we maybe only used 15% of the battery after 2 or 3 hours of driving around town. So there is a place for them, and as the price comes down, these are going to become much more attractive. Charging stations are popping up. I was at my BP station that's maybe a mile from here, and they put a charging station at the BP station. That was the first time I've seen it at a gas station.
Yeah, that's what I hear they're starting to do.
They're showing up.
Here's the question.
Go ahead.
Okay, you have a hotel in Las Vegas that has 400 rooms, and everybody's got an electric car. They want to park there overnight and charge it.
Ain't gonna happen.
Ain't gonna happen.
It ain't gonna happen. Bill, there'll always be situations in which there'll be the problem will pop up. But if I can point out something that they were testing in, Bob, you might have to help me. A suburb right adjacent to Wakefield, Henderson, not Henderson. Do you know the name of the suburb right next to Wakefield?
Wakefield is near Danvers.
No, the other way.
The other way, you're near North Reading.
Okay.
And then you get into Everett is up there. You're not too far from Gloucester.
All right. Let me get on the subject that I was going to get at.
Okay.
They were beta testing this new program in this one town. It was next to Wakefield, outside of Boston, where they have charging stations on the telephone poles. And they are actually up where the main power lines are running across, because all their power lines there are above ground. So they have it tapped into the 440 that's running across, or the 220 that's running across in the power poles. You pull up to a telephone pole, you use their app, and what it does is it will drop the charging cable down to you. So
there is a company called ChargePoint, and there's EVgo around here.
And so, but you could do this right at where you park your car on the street. This is for people that park on the street, and they can charge right there. So
National Grid.
Yeah.
National Grid, November 2021, they began it.
Right. And that's who my son works for, is National Grid. So, but he pointed this out, that it's only that one city that they're beta testing this in to see if this program will work and is it being accepted. Bill, that's not the solution, but the point I'm making is there's creativity being done here to come up with solutions for the problems. And not everyone's going to jump at doing electric cars. And, majority of us are going to still gas combustion. But as these gas prices keep staying up at $6, $7, $8 a gallon, eventually we're going to stop doing drive-throughs, and eventually we'll stop waiting in line. As I still saw today, how many people were in drive-throughs at restaurants to pick up their food. I'm like, get off your butt and go inside. Turn off your engine. Why you can't get out of your car? But
I'm not knocking EVs. I just pointing out a problem with them.
Sanford,
yes.
Sanford, the town of Wakefield neighbors on Stoneham and Melrose. Melrose is the town. Then you get over to Saugus. Reading is just north of.
Melrose is the one that's doing the beta testing on this. Let's see, Melrose.
They started in Melrose, but now they're in several different places.
Melrose, MA.
Yep.
Electric.
It's National Grid, and it's in the Boston Globe, but you have to pay for access to that.
Yes.
So that isn't what I wanted. I wanted that. Let me see if I can find it. Well, we have the local news station.
It is.
Our ABC affiliate. Local community is using its current infrastructure to bring clean energy to drivers. Earth Day in Melrose meant.
Yep. I think I found that same article right here. Yep.
WCVB.
And you could see this picture where you have a car and you have a green box up on the telephone pole. That is what they were doing. And, I saw this. I thought this was really innovative program to be doing. I don't think they show any more pictures of this. They have 12 sites currently running. No, 20 total EV and at 12 sites.
Well, the thing is, there are other places around here, and there have been for years, where you can charge. There's Walden Pond State Park. They have some. Several office buildings around here have charging stations. REI, the outdoor goods place, where you buy your sporting goods, they also have them.
Around here, I've seen them in front of Walgreens stores. I've seen it at the movie theaters. I thought it's a good place. I don't know about grocery stores. I haven't seen them there. Woodman's. Woodman's has the Tesla charging stations by us.
We have a chain called Star Market, which is part of Shaw's, and they have it. And my apartment community just put in something like 4 of them. Which actually 8 spots.
That was a conversation I had with a neighbor of mine whose son was interested in getting an electric car. But his problem is the condo building he lives in does not have any charging stations. And he didn't know how he was going to get around that. And I said, well, he'll work it out, but it's a too bad it is a problem at some of these places, because it's going to take a while for condos associations to decide to relinquish or assign a parking spot that they normally would sell to get money from it. They'll have to buy it back and turn it into an EV spot. But, I think it's going to take time for the private sector to catch up to this, but they will. They'll have to.
Yeah, in my apartment community, there's limits. There's limits to how long you can be plugged in.
Yep.
And there's limits to how many times you can plug in a week. That kind of thing.
Right.
The cars are set up basically once they reach a certain charge level, they stop. And I think Tesla is at least one of them that has a notifier that tells the owner that if the car is charged, it needs to be moved.
Right.
And they've had some issues where they had groups of as many as 8 to 10 charging stations, and that usage was so heavy that they had people waiting in line. And they had a few skirmishes over when somebody walked away, left the car, and didn't bother to come back and unplug it. And
on Tesla, when you plug in, they know who you are because you have to have an account.
Right, exactly.
On their superchargers.
Right.
And once it gets filled up, you've got about 5 minutes. And if you don't unplug, get out, they start charging you. So you can get charged for idling, for not even using power.
Right.
Now, the other thing I was going to ask, Sanford, what level does your son charge it up to?
You're asking me questions I can't answer it.
On the Tesla, on the older Teslas like mine, they don't recommend that you charge it to 100% unless you're going to be using it right immediately.
Right.
That's exactly true. And yes, he only goes up to, I think it's like 90% on charge or something like that.
80. I go to 80.
Yeah. Whatever.
In fact, if I get it charged up over 90, regenerative doesn't work. Regenerative braking doesn't work.
Right. You're asking me a question I don't know. I think that's an operator question, meaning how he operates his vehicle. It's not something I would know. We discussed it, but I don't know the answer to the question.
Right.
Any more? I don't want to dwell more on this because it really is not that we kind of went a little sidebar here. It's not really computer related. So other than the computer that's running these cars is just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It's more tech related than you realize.
Phenomenal amount of technology that's in the car. Just phenomenal. The camera's 360 cameras all the way around, and it's not just showing you the camera views. It's reading the data and it's doing something with the data on all this to keep you centered in a lane, to keep you accident free, blah, blah, blah. You know, there's a lot.
It reminds you to put your hands back on the wheel if you take them off too.
Yeah. He said that there's
at least the Tesla does.
This one has yes, you do have to have your hands on the wheel for the self-driving. And it's only on interstates like the blue zone is what they call it. That's stuff that's been mapped out that you can do this on. In addition, they have cameras that are in the dash that are looking at your eyes. Yeah. And if you take your eyes off of looking forward for whatever period of time it is, you can do it briefly, but they won't let you sit there and be looking at your phone or your tablet or something while you're driving.
They nag you.
Yes, it'll nag you, and it'll start buzzing, and eventually it'll just kick out of self-driving mode. Yeah. So you have to take over the car. So it's so.
And 25 years ago in Popular Mechanics, when they told you that you were going to get on the interstate and lock into the wire, and you could go to sleep, read your book, you just program it. When they came to the exit, you would get off, and then you would have to take over and drive it from there. We're 25 years late already.
That's a bus.
Yep. Okay, new subject, new direction. We've got 15 more minutes. Oh boy.
Well, I got a minor problem. Maybe somebody's already fought with this. I got an HP 7520 printer that worked very well until this past week. For some reason, it said it was low on toner, and it shows that the black cartridge was empty. And I put a new cartridge in, and it still shows empty, and it will not print black at all. And it's a little weak on some of the other ones. I did the usual maintenance things on the things as far as cleaning it and that, but I haven't taken it apart yet. But I think I'm going to have to take it apart and see if I can wash down.
You may need a new print head.
Yeah, have you cleaned the print head?
No, this was a laser.
No, I haven't done that yet. That's the next thing. I'll do that first before I.
Did you say it's a laser printer, Harry?
It's a inkjet printer.
Oh, it's an inkjet because you said toner.
Well, it's the cartridges, ink cartridges.
Right.
It's always been pretty reliable. I've never really, but it has been not being used quite as much the last 2 or 3 months. So
you can clean the print head.
But they actually, you can replace the print head.
You can also replace them.
Yeah, I see. It's been a long time since I took one apart, but I was sure that I could do that. I just hadn't gotten totally into it yet.
Yeah.
But you could buy a new printer for the cost of the print head.
Right.
That's probably about right.
That's why I suggest trying to clean it. And if you haven't used it for a period of time, that's probably part of the culprit.
Right.
The print heads are actually part of the cartridge, are they not?
No.
There's a separate print head.
Okay. So it's just a cartridge is just the ink well itself.
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
It depends on the brand and the model. Yeah, it depends on the brand and the model.
Mine was a photo printer.
Yeah. My Epson printer, the print head is part of the cartridge.
Right. Yeah, it was on the Epsons.
What model was that one, Harry?
7520.
Okay.
I was just before the meeting, I was looking on the YouTube, and it showed to take the cartridges out, take the print head out, and go wash it off real good and clean it up, and then try it again.
Yep.
Also, there could be ink on the rails that moves back and forth.
Yeah, I've run the cleaning a couple of times. That usually means it's dumped a bunch of ink in the bottom there somewhere that needs to be cleaned out too. So,
are you sure that the cartridge has ink in it? The new cartridge could be empty.
Well, it's not. As it happened, the new cartridge I put in it is not that old, so I'm pretty sure it's pretty good yet. All the other
it could be a brand new cartridge, but it could be empty.
Well, is it HP
or is it my finger? Real easy when I touched the pad on it, so there is some ink in it. It should have been able to put out a little bit.
Your software will tell you that too, Harry.
Yeah, it shows the capacity. It actually doesn't even show a capacity on the sensor when you look at the ink to see how much ink is in the cartridges. So for some reason, it's not reading that particular cartridge at all.
It's an HP cartridge.
What's that?
Bad contact.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is it an HP cartridge?
They're all HP cartridges.
Okay, because I mean, there are substitutes. But
Yeah,
the problem is that those cartridges also have electronic contacts.
I know.
That go through the printhead. And that's where, if there's anything, blocking that contact, it's not going to understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So anyone want to comment how we clean those contacts?
I've got some toner cleaner that works real good for doing stuff like that.
I would use like 90% alcohol.
Oh, yeah, right.
On the contacts.
What works better than that tuner cleaner from the old TV tuners?
Yeah, if you still have it.
I do. I still got it.
There's a number of
I use it for a lot of little things.
And Harry, you'll get your daily supply of CFCs, okay?
Oh, yeah, that too. Well.
Is it true?
At this point, they can add up. No problem.
Right.
Is it true that at one point in time that they made cartridges that somehow were dated, and after a certain period of time they wouldn't work anymore?
Correct.
Yes, that's true.
Yep.
There was a lawsuit over it. I collected like about $4 and some printer paper in the settlement.
Oh, now we're going to diverge over here since you brought up lawsuits. Did anybody get any money from the Facebook settlement?
I don't use it.
Wayne,
I don't use it.
Wayne, did you get 400?
Yeah, both my wife and myself both got
400?
It's like $380 or something like that.
Okay.
What was that?
Whatever it was.
What's that one about? What's that about?
Well, one thing, it's too late to collect the money now.
Oh yeah.
From my understanding, it was a class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
And it was only in Illinois, because Facebook had violated the I don't know what they call it, the law, the privacy law. They had to do the pictures. It was pictures, saving pictures and of taking pictures of other people, or you were in the pictures, but you didn't give them permission to use the pictures.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they were using that like in an AI type format so that they could tag the other pictures using your likeliness. And that apparently was a class action lawsuit, and it was sometime last year or so that you would had to fill out the form for it.
Was that just Facebook, or was Google involved in that also?
No, Facebook.
That was Facebook. And that Facebook settlement came through. My daughter got it and my son got it. My wife thought it was spam and she didn't get it, and now she's mad. But Harry, you touched on Google. There is currently a class action lawsuit against Google about doing the same thing.
Right.
And I just got notification of that one today.
I just saw that go through today too. That's the first time I'd seen that about Google.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about, if you're looking through real estate pictures and that, there's so many of them now, they pretty much all got Google on the state and county records. If your house where it shows a picture, that ended up being a Google picture that was taken 9 times out of 10.
Right.
And tagged as such. And there were a number of cases. In fact, I had a friend that lived on the east side of Chicago that when they took the picture of his house, it shows him sitting on the front porch.
Yeah, where did I get this one? Was it I think it was a Gmail thing that I got it in.
I think that's how it came through it popped up on my phone a little while ago.
All right, let me find out where this one, I saw it come through. I'm looking on my phone, gentlemen, to see if I could find this. And it was on my tablet is where I got it. And I can't pull it up at this moment. But there is currently a lawsuit against Google, same thing, similar thing. So I went ahead and put my name in that one. Who knows what you could get off that? I'm sorry?
Yeah, that was about 8 months ago when I actually filled that out.
Oh, really? And I just got the notification just
Oh, no, for Facebook.
Oh, for Facebook. Yeah.
Just got it, I think last week.
Yeah, same thing. So you might want to look into it. I don't know, Bob, out east. I don't know if you're part of that or if this is just an Illinois thing.
We have different lawsuits.
Yes, you do.
One of mine that is pending, I think, is against Yahoo, and there's another about Google. So there's others.
Right.
And I just had one from one of my medical providers. Their billing service had a data breach, and I got $100 out of that.
Ooh.
But when it's a medical provider and it's a data breach, that's small compensation.
Yeah, I would have gotten some of that since I was hacked earlier in the year. From somebody had a data breach and somebody hacked me.
Mm-hmm.
Not nice. Okay, where did I get this Gmail?
I haven't had anything bad happen to me as a result of any of these breaches. I just always fill out the forms, not always, but usually. And once in a while, I get a few pennies or dollars.
One of the local ones that turned up was a couple of friends had, they mailed checks, handwritten checks that they mailed to pay. One was for a charity, another one for paying a utility bill. Yep. Mailboxes were broken into, the checks were stolen. Somebody actually took their check and used the bank numbers to order checks and then wrote a new check for like $9,000 against their account, scribbled a signature on it, which as it happened, didn't actually match either one of their handwritings when it came back through the bank. So when they got into it and they realized what had happened to it, the bank did replace their money and they resolved the issue. I think they might have even been able to crack back to where it came from. But there was an article in the Sunday Tribune this past week about this happening in our general Midwest area of people where they just take the check that's in the envelope and take it out, and then they scrub the check as far as the information and rewrite the amount and use the original signatures and put them through. Right. People have dropped $15,000, $20,000 because somebody wrote a check on their account for that amount, put it through, and got the money.
And they say to use a gel type of pen.
Right. They recommend that.
Can't wash it with the gel pens.
Right.
Okay, I just put in a link to the Google, Rivera et al. Versus Google LLC settlement website. So that is what I got. And you have if you could read up on this yourselves, okay?
Okay.
All right, I put that out there. This is something I got just today. You could see if it's real. Bob will see if it applies to him. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if it's state dependent. It may not be. It does not say Illinois on this thing.
Yeah.
So, although it was done through the Circuit Court of Cook County, case number, whatever. You guys can read up on it yourselves. Okay. This is
Illinois residents only.
Okay. This is not me telling anybody to fill out this form or to go to this website. This is me just telling you this is something I received today. Please do your own research on this to validate whether this is true or not. Disclaimer complete. All right. Do we have anything else we'd like to discuss tonight? Any announcements?
How's Tim doing?
Bert? Well, I haven't seen. Okay, for those who may or may not know, Tim, our president, Tim Kaikis, is in the hospital. He had to go in for emergency surgery, and Last I saw him was, what was it, Monday? So today is Thursday, and I really don't know. I can't answer it. He did not look very well on Monday, but I don't know how soon after that surgery that we were talking to him, if it was the day before. Was it Bert? Was it Saturday he went in?
We've had emails back and forth for the last couple of days.
Okay.
So I don't know where he's at right this second, but so he has been doing emails. He had his Chromebook with him.
Right.
And was using it.
Right.
He sent an email today about ccs.org closing and that they were going to put a temporary out on the new one that they're working on.
Right.
Right. We made that announcement.
Yes. Those that may or may not know, Tim, Bert, myself, and Terry have been part of a program with DePaul University, where they were basically taking our old website. It was a program that was set up actually by John Alry, who got us into this, where the school was looking for candidates of nonprofit organizations, preferably, that had websites that needed to be redone. And they wanted their students to do this. And we were a great candidate. They picked us up like right away. And they had worked with us every week since January. We've been involved in meetings with 2 to 3 hour meetings every week to basically redesign the website and go through the particulars on doing this. Mind you, the four of us really don't know much about building a website. We're all consumers. We use them. We know what they look like, but we sure to heck don't know how to build one and maintain it and run it. So we were assisted to do this. Maybe I'm saying more than I should. I don't know. Bert, do you want to take over or?
Well, I think, we're at the point where they've been moving a skeleton of our old site over to something new, and it's not quite complete. It will probably be another 10 days or more till we have what they call complete, and then it's up to us to keep it going and fulfill the right. Site.
That is complete and somewhat functional. This is just like Bert had said, this is a skeleton. Even the data that's in there, they scraped from our old website, which is old information. We need to update it. The verbiage that's in there, the location for the meetings is all wrong. The start times are wrong. It's not ready for prime time. It's not even ready for, it should just have a under construction sign in front of it, is really where it's at. But we went through a lot of details are into making a website, from the look to how things perform. When you click on something, what happens? When you click on another part, what happens? There's a lot of details to be worked out, and that's what we did. And mind you, we've put in hundreds of hours with the team on doing this. Literally. What was this, 20? We're coming up on 20 meetings, and each one would have been close to 3 hours long. So I'll give you an idea how many hours we've actually put in. Was it 20 times 3 is what, 60 hours? I said hundreds, but.
Well, that's excluding the daily emails of stuff going back and forth.
Right, daily emails.
Which is a substantial part of it.
Right, we're not trying to grandstand or tell anybody that we did anything great. This is what we did. We get paid this much. You all know how much we get paid for doing this, so it's all on our own time to help devise this site. And then we had to move our site to a new location. So finding a new company to hold it, because there's particular requirements that the old company was not able to satisfy. And that's where we are. So we're not sending out the link to it because it is by no means complete, but it's as best as we can.
But more than that, the students aren't done with it. They're still making daily changes right now.
Right. And then
It was a blessing that we're able to hook up with DePaul. I mean, it was a real blessing for us. You know?
Well, it was all because of John, who, and I might say, this all happened just before the tragic fire that took his life.
Yes.
I mean, he got us all hooked up, and like days later, the tragic fire happened.
Yeah, first week of January. Yeah.
Right. And so we've been heavily involved in this, and it's burning us out, if you will. It's been a lot of hours we've put in. Not just that, but when we come home, we get done with the meetings, and we still have to discuss all the nuances of it. So at some point, we'll be able to, I think in the next week or so, then we get to have access to it to actually start rewriting the content that's in there and updating it. And that's going to take us time to do too.
Hey, guys, did we decide anything on Beata's computer or nothing yet?
Terry, I don't think that's something that she talked about at this meeting. And as far as I know, no, this is a board function, right?
Okay.
All right. But please, and that's it.
Okay.
Now, there'll be more than
more
one
fun
person.
to come always, right?
There'll be more than one person who knows how to manage this then, hopefully.
Oh, well, so far, as I explained to you, there's 4 of us involved on the development of this, so that at least 4 of us, 4 to start. But then it's going to be other people will be brought in as administrators that can help go into the content and stuff. But in terms of the structure, that will be limited in terms of functionality. They'll be limited on who can do that. But yeah, there'll be more. It's not going to be one person's role as it used to be in the past. But I will tell you, after reviewing what Jerry had done and what I've seen by looking through Jerry's archives, I'm just amazed at what Jerry Sass had done and how he kept a good handle on it. He might have gotten a lot of pressure from other people that there's things that should have been done, but this is a daunting task to do, to maintain and run a website. It really is a lot of work for one individual. I don't know how Jerry ever slept at night, how he got things done. Just don't know. But Bert, you wanted to add something?
Well, I think, we will have leaders from different groups that we'll call editors that'll be able to put up meetings and do some different parts of it. And of course, we're always looking for people to volunteer and help with our programming too. I mean, certainly Sanford has certainly stepped up amazingly to, provide huge amounts of content for us in terms of the programming. And, we're always looking for more people to step up and participate. So if you have ideas, let us know. If you'd like to help, let us know. Terry has a program he's going to be doing in July now, an investment SIG, right, Terry?
Yeah, we're going to postpone it to July 14th because of the, we have a meeting on June 9th with DePaul. So we're going to move it to July 14th. The first meeting.
So I mean, we're looking for people, we look back through the content that was on Jerry's site, you get to see huge amounts of information of things that people did over the years. I mean, this is 38 years we've been doing this in this program. I've been involved for over 30. And so, I mean, this is a volunteer organization. We, just try and do everything with a limited amount of cost and fees just to be able to keep things going. And
we even saved some of the printouts from the old hard copies, for history's sake. People can, trace through some of the histories of the club.
We do have, I was able to retrieve and or resurrect all the old hard copies.
Great.
In a digital format that was made available to all the board members as well as Beata and others. Go ahead.
Let me say that in that format, if anybody has hard copies from 1990 to 1995, we're still looking for some of those.
Oh, those were not in that digital file?
Right.
Okay.
How about the print copies?
Well, if you've got them from those years, we'll scan them and put them in.
I think Jerry scanned the older ones before that and probably didn't get past 90. Although then they were digital after that, so
okay.
After 95. So if you have any of your old hard copies from that period, let us know.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else have any comments or questions? If not, I will call this meeting adjourned and I'll stop the recording.